is going to involve a couple of different things. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be using a pedal tone. Do you know what I mean by that?
No.
So a pedal tone is a note that keeps repeating. It's usually done in the bass, and that term comes from organ players who would sometimes, to be totally honest, it comes from incompetent organ players, like church organists who really only play piano and don't know what to do with their feet. Because in the organ, you're playing bass nut lines with your feet, right? So if you don't really know what to do, you can just hit one note over and over again, and it'll kind of sound good. And a lot of piano players have gotten jobs as church organists and managed to make that work for them. Obviously, if you want to be a good church organist, you have to do a lot more than that. But the other thing that we're doing is we're going to be moving these chords, some chords around on the inside strings. So these are 3-string chords on strings 4, 3, and 2. The first one is your first finger is going to be on the second string 5th fret. Your second finger is going to be on the 3rd string 6th fret, and your 4th finger is going to be on the 4th string 7th fret. And this is an A chord. It's actually like a very small version of this big bar chord. If I just take those 3 strings from the chord, you can hear it's the same. But the 3-string version gives you the open A, which is our pedal. So let's look at the chords first, and then we'll put all this together. So the second chord is if you move this shape back 1 fret and switch your first and second fingers around. So your first finger goes on the 3rd string, and your second finger goes on the 2nd string. First finger on the 3rd string. Right. Just practice that little switch. You're just swapping, those fingers are just swapping strings. Right, there you go. Watch that 3rd finger, but make sure you didn't get, I think your 3rd finger hopped off the, there we go. Right, that chord, by the way, that's an E chord.
Okay.
When we move, so now we're going to move that chord back 2 frets. Good. And what do you think that would be? If we take an E chord and move it back, what'd you say?
D.
Very good. Triple gold star. Excellent. And then the last chord is an A chord, and how we're gonna, it's like a more normal cowboy A chord, except we're gonna play it with a bar, just because it's gonna be quicker. So I'm gonna put my, now you don't want a full bar here, Andrew, because you need the open 5th string. So I'm gonna bar only 4 strings, only 4. Right, make sure you're not touching that 5th string. It looks to me right now, I'm looking at your finger, and it looks to me like it's touching the 5th string. Play the open 5th string for me. Okay, you're good. It's just the internet. Couldn't see very clearly. Good. Okay, so that's the move for the chords. Let's do that. Switcheroo. Slide it back. And then our bar.
Okay.
Okay, so now the next thing we have to do is we have to add that pedal note. Now, the pedal note is on the 5th string, and it's going to be palm muted. And this is part of the trickiest part of playing this chorus, this verse riff in a way, is that you have to be able to mute that 5th string, but still get a clear sound on strings 4, 3, and 2. So I find that when I do this, there's like a certain spot right about here where I can touch the string and I still have enough room to clear the other strings. may need to fool around with that a little bit to get it. Okay. So, but what's happening here? The first, so on the first bit, on the first chord, the rhythm of the open A is going to be an eighth note and 2/16 notes like this. Bump, 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 and then a strum. So let's do that. Right. Then now we move back, and the rhythm of the bass now and for pretty much the rest of the riff. Yeah, that chord change is confusing you, and it really shouldn't. It's really easy. Just slide back and swap fingers. Watch, like this.
Yeah.
Like that. You'll, with a little practice, I'm sure you'll get it. Watch that third finger, Andrew. Your third finger has it. That's right. So what we're going to do on this chord is we're going to play 4/16 notes. Sorry. Right. We're going to do the same thing when we slide the chord back. Right, and then now there's a little sort of single note thing on the sixth string. Actually starts on the sixth string. It's a hammer from 3 to 4, third fret to fourth fret on the sixth string, and then the open. Right. So that whole part now goes like this. Now, let's see how, put your thinking cap on for a minute here, and tell me what's weird about this, timing-wise.
In the first chord you play 3/16 notes, and then the rest you play 4.
Well, that's true, but no, you don't know. That's not true, actually. The first one you play an eighth note, followed by 2/16 notes, which is the same amount of time, right? So that's not that big of a deal. Let me ask you this. How long does the chord last for? Listen, see if you can figure it out.
Eighth note?
Very good. So now let's think about that for a minute. The bass part is either an eighth note plus 2/16 notes, which is how many beats?
4.
No, an eighth note plus 2/16 notes is
2 beats. Yeah. I'm confused.
2 beats would be 2 quarter notes.
Yeah.
2 eighth notes would be what?
1 quarter note.
Right, that would be 1 beat, right? 2/16 notes is the same as 1 eighth note?
Yes.
So an eighth note plus 2/16 notes is
1 beat.
1 beat. So the bass is 1 beat, and then the chord is, you just said?
1 beat.
No. An eighth note is not a beat. An eighth note is...
Oh, half a beat.
Right. So this is 1 and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 E and a 1 and a 2 and 3 and 4 and... That's how that counts out. So notice what's happening is the chord, the first time we play the chord, 1 and a 2, it falls on the beat. 1 and a 2 and a 3 E and... So the second chord, the E chord, falls on the and. 1 and a 2 and a 3 E and. 4 E and a 1. So this one, of course, falls on the beat again, and you can see what's going to happen. And a 2 E and 3 and 4 and that's how that counts out. 1 and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 E and a 1 and a 2 E and 3 and 4 and 1 and a Andrews, this is what's called a polyrhythm. Eighth notes, normally when we think of eighth notes, they're grouped in groups of two, or maybe four, but multiples of two, right? We think of two eighth notes as a beat. And so that's the normal rhythm that we expect eighth notes to fall in. But here the eighth notes are not grouped in groups of two, they're grouped in groups of three. The first two is the bass, and then the last third is the chord. And so that means that is what we call a 3 against 2 polyrhythm, multiple rhythm. And that polyrhythm is one that happens in many, many, many ways in rock music. It's something that rarely happens in classical music. I won't say never, but in rock and roll, you'll get licks like this. Now, once again, I'm playing 3 notes, but I'm not playing triplets. If I was playing triplets, it would sound like that. But, or if I get adventurous and put the metronome on, so you're going to find my metronome. Come on, you should be in here. Even without the metronome, because here I'm doing the 3 against 2 polyrhythm with eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. If I double it up, it's 16th notes. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E. 1A and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and you'll hear guitarists do stuff like that all the time. One of my students right now is working on a solo from the Metallica song Fade to Black, which has a similar type of thing. Here what he's doing is he's grouping them in 3 and 2, like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and... Now that's weird, right? Plus 3 plus 3 plus 2 equals?
8.
Right, and that makes a normal 2 measures of eighth notes, but it's grouped in a weird and interesting way, and that's exactly what's going on here. So once again, the tricky part of doing this, well, there's a couple of tricky parts, right? One tricky part is getting that palm mute, getting a nice chunky palm mute that's not too dead, but also getting a clear sound on the chord when you strum it. Moving the chords, you're going to find with very little bit of practice, you'll have that down. That's the least of your worries. Usually that's the hardest part, but in this case, that's not going to be that tricky. But keeping that timing steady is going to take a little bit of practice, and obviously getting it up to speed is going to take even more practice. But so here's one more bonus